Get ready.
Welcome, everybody, to the latest episode of Gullcast, presented by Endicott Esports and the Endicott School of Sports Science, where each week during the semester, we take you inside this exciting, growing world of esports with industry professionals to give you an insider's look. I'm your host, Brendan Hall. I'm the esports coordinator here at Endicott, and we are now on episode 2020. How about that?
That's
How about
crazy.
that, folks? And if you told me when I started this last year that just 20 episodes in, we'd be getting names as big as my next guest here, who has agreed to come on, I'd have laughed at you, told you crazy, all that good stuff.
Gosh.
But I guess it means we're doing okay with this whole thing, right? That means we people like it. People like me. I don't know. So my next guest is a super important, super influential figure in the industry. When you go to DreamHack, you see the imprints of her work everywhere, from the walls of the Ars Alley to the indie creators, the look, the feel, you name it. It's got her imprint on it. And we're going to dive in on a bunch of stuff today with her. Please welcome the great and powerful Lyndsay Postell.
That's the craziest introduction I've ever heard. I have to be so real with you. That is so crazy to me.
Crazy good or crazy bad? That's all.
No, I'm gonna call my mom after this and be like, you don't understand how important I am.
I should probably caveat this. I spent a long time in media. I worked at ESPN for 6 years. I worked for the Patriots for 6 years.
Your resume is crazy.
A little bit. And all these years later, I'm into esports. I don't know how that turned out, but
well, no, it's such an honor for someone like your resume is insane. I hope you understand that. And so to have someone like you say such kind words, that's so sweet.
Can you please repeat this in August when I'm up for my performance review.
Oh, you got it. You got it. Just call me up.
You.
Yeah, you got my number. So yeah, no, I'm so excited to be here. I'm so honored to be here. I also think that your programs are phenomenal, the way that you're empowering so many students, but especially like the female and fem-identifying body at your school is incredible. And that's such like a big piece of everything I've done in my work is like trying to empower women and femme-identifying people. So the moment that I got your email, I was like, let's go.
Yeah. Let me introduce you to a few of them here. You know, Anna McDonald, who is an important part of our future here. She's involved with the Esports Management Club. She's one who's recruited a lot of these new female Fortnite players. Adrienne Roux, who's a content queen, content TikTok machine. We got a lot of energy on that wing of the esports ecosystem. So I'm really optimistic about the future. And I want to talk, we'll talk a lot about that today for sure. But I want to start with this, Lyndsay. Everybody I've had on this show has had such a unique journey into esports. I want to get into yours. You have a really, if you don't mind me saying, inspirational, I would say, backstory.
That's very sweet.
Yeah. So let's see. I'll give you the floor here. Let's get into that of how we got to here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been a kiddo that's loved gaming. Like my family was very, very poor when we grew up. So we didn't really have any consoles, but like we would borrow stuff from neighbors or go to neighbors and, you know, take turns playing games. And so when I got older, I had a spinal surgery, and you know, this is around the time that I started having like, you know, adult money and living on my own. And so I had a spinal surgery, and something went wrong during the surgery during closing, and I couldn't walk for about 3 years. I had to relearn to walk and do all of that. And during that time, my friends actually came together and like bought me an Xbox. I think it was like the S, the one right after the 360 or whatever. And so I started playing Borderlands 2. Like I was obsessed with it. I've been in music and in like media for forever. That's what I ended up going to college for. And so I just love the design of Borderlands. I ended up playing it for a total of like 16 times, not even kidding, all the way through. And so anyway, I ended up finding this app called Twitch, and I accidentally, I did not know the first time that I went live that I was live. I thought it was like a, you know, kind of like hangout chat room gaming thing. Anyway, so I went live, and then, you know, history kind of wrote itself from then. I started figuring out how to actually stream and make graphics. And then I started working with other streamers and networking and working with local events to make graphics for them and marketing. And then it kept snowballing into what it is now, which is, large festival event management and creation, creative. So it kind of was like a, phoenix rising from the ashes, if you will. And that's a Borderlands reference, by the way, with but still. So yeah, that's how I got into it. And I feel like you're so right. Everyone I talked to was like, oh, I was working at like McDonald's and I met a friend and we went to a LAN and now I'm like the director of blah, blah, blah. Like it's like the beginning stories are so crazy, but it's all about those hard skills that you really like spend time making. You know what I mean?
Well, I think with every one of these, it reinforces to me just the power of leaning in and not being afraid to just taking a personal anecdote here. Like, believe it or not, I am a little bit socially awkward, but like,
what?
Something like, but COVID, what COVID did for me as far as networking is like completely eradicate any sort of anxiety you might have about cold reaching out to strangers, like because a lot of these in-person networking events were virtual, and it was a lot easier for me to follow up with people and say, hey, I saw you do this, can I ask you questions? Right? If we're in person, Lyndsay, right, you're probably boxing people out the edge of the stage for 15 seconds of hi, but in a virtual setting, right, you can, you get on the phone with these guys and it's next thing you know, 2 hours have passed by and you're like, holy cow.
Literally. So that's what I was saying when we initially met. I was like, how are we going to fit all of our conversation in 30 minutes? Good luck editing. And I'm sorry in advance if this is like 31 minutes. That's
fair warning to our student Sean Toomey, who edits these things. He does the Lord's work behind the scenes. He's a great sound engineer. He always has his work cut out for when I say, hey, try to get a couple social clips and hey, this was good, this was good, this was good, this was good. We're like in a candy shop almost,
Yeah, I think when you're editing, his name is Sean. Yeah. I think when you're editing this, make sure to put like a cute little like, hi, it's Sean, on the video, okay, whatever, make sure you put your response in too. So you have a voice too, buddy.
Okay.
Never let your voice be silent.
You have your marching orders, Sean. You have your marching orders. You know what's going to happen? We're going to play this back and he's going to have like the Nixon tapes, like
he's going to have like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah, he's going to have like accidentally erase stuff or throw something in there. Hi, I'm here, so no. But yeah, so one of the things that I love talking with you about is community building. And I think this is so, we see so many crash and burns. I feel like you tell with the phoenix rising from the ashes. We see a lot of Icarus getting too close to the sun.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I think where you see some of where you see some commonalities there, I think is not that it's unhealthy community, but just like a community that's kind of, whether it's fragmented or it's just misaligned with where the org is going. So I like, and I'll get into this too about like how DreamHack became DreamHack. But one of the things that I think it makes DreamHack such an important cornerstone of this industry is that community, right? And so what are your rules of the road for community building?
Oh my God. Okay. So I think you started to touch on it. I think one thing is like, the best gaming communities, I feel like always have like 3 core principles. So there's inclusivity, there's engagement, and then there's passion. And then I feel like if I had to add a 4th, it would be like communication, right? It would be like how to market and get those things out. But when it comes to DreamHack, like we would be nothing without fans of the IP or people who are like cosplayers or people who are really into developers or indie devs themselves. So I think the biggest thing when it comes to community building, at least for me, like my golden rule is like, shut up, like listen to what they want. Just make sure that you're like, I don't know. That's the biggest thing. You just have to listen to the communities and then try to build and create things in the festival and products in the festival for the communities. So we have, for example, something called the photo cubes. It's literally just these B matrix walls that are like really, really cool designs, and people go in and you snap a selfie and that's it. I created that for our cosplayers, because I know that they wanted areas to like take pictures, and they work for weeks and months and years on these builds. And I think it's kind of disrespectful not to have a spot for them to like take photos and look amazing and show it off, right? So
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing when it comes to community building for DreamHack is, one, it is so crucial and so core to everything we do. We're always thinking about the fans and who, like, what that, product or item is for. But the biggest thing really when you're an organizer is like reach out, try to get in contact, really look for the people who are, constantly that inclusivity, engagement, that passion. But the biggest thing as an organizer is like, shut up, like, shut up and listen to them, and like actively listen. Don't just be like, okay, they want whatever. So that's the biggest thing when it comes to building communities. And I think a lot of people want to say like networking and that kind of stuff. Of course. But if you're
But
not
that
working
comes
and
with
you're,
it, right?
yeah, exactly. If you're not listening to them and you're not building something for them, then like, how are you building a festival for the people? You know what I mean? For the gamers.
My
So
dad used to say, you have twice as many ears as mouths, so you should listen twice as much as you talk. But
I love that. I'm
yeah,
gonna tell my husband that.
yeah. Well, here's what I'm like. I think a lot of people, like, we hear this so much, right? Oh, you gotta tune into your customers. You gotta listen, and so that all sounds great when we're sitting here on a Zoom chat. It sounds great when
Right.
you're like in front of thousands of people at a conference talking about listen to your customers. But I think in practice, for a lot of people, it's hard,
It
right?
is.
It requires a certain level of let's be honest, subverting your own ego,
Yeah, it
right?
does. It does.
And I because I think sometimes, look, I can speak from experience in the tech world. Like, there's a lot of what I would call listening or hearing but not listening, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably because it's not what they want to hear, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you like practice what you preach? How do you, because it is harder than it sounds, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I do think you're so right. Ego cannot be part of this equation. It can be part of their equation for sure, but it can't be part of ours as organizers or as people trying to build the community. So for example, I love when I get emails that are like, hey, I really liked this, but I hated all of this. Like, even though that sounds terrible, I love negative feedback because it teaches me, like, okay, this is what we need to do in the future. And it helps me find that equilibrium. But to actually practice what you preach, it's, yeah, it's like, shut up and listen, of course. But then after you've listened and you really take it in, you then have to be really creative. You have to be extremely creative to try to find a solution to make it work. If you are in restrictions with budget, then you have to try to figure out a kind of medium for that and what you can build and what you can make and what you can create to amplify and support that community, or what you already have that you can give them or change to support that community. I think that it's honestly, once you kind of get that feedback, like you said, you have to put that ego aside, but you have to like actually sit with it and digest it and try to be creative. And so what I normally do is I'll make like a little Google Slides deck of, these are all the different ideas I'm thinking of. These are the different ways we could integrate you throughout the festival. Tell me what you like, tell me what you hate, and we can adjust a couple things. And usually by doing that, they'll be like, we like this, but we want to adjust it a little bit. And it's like, oh, I never even thought about that. That's a lot cooler than what I thought about. And then we'll work back and forth until we find the perfect thing for that community while still keeping the integrity and like following the core principles of our show and festival. Right. So it's a lot of work. I think that, like, yeah, you can, like I said, shut up and listen, but putting that into practice, like, you have to actually put the work in too. And that's a lot of collaborative efforts, putting your ego aside and continuing to shut up and listen when you pitch new ideas and stuff. So yeah, I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. Because here's the thing about creativity is, and I think this is something that people get wrong too, is that it's these contrarian jolts of wisdom that come to you at random times of night. And right. And I think, hey, that's great in your 20s. When you get to your 30s, right? If you don't have a process, right?
Yeah.
Right. Like, you should be finding a way to get inspired creatively every morning at night, right? And I think creativity, it's not so much about the jolts of wisdom and it's about finding a way to achieve the goal, no matter what the obstacles are in the way.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people get that wrong, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think I agree. I think for me, I mean, anything that I've created or done at DreamHack, there's maybe only been one moment of like, "Oh, this would be so cool." You know what I mean? Most of those come from brainstorming and listening to the people around you and putting brains together and talking to community leaders and talking to the city and local leaders, or just talking to a local cosplayer and being like, what are you missing at this show, and so I think that creativity doesn't have to, I feel like a lot of people put pressure on themselves to be like, I have to have the best ideas and come up with blah blah blah. No, you're working on a team, rely on your team, like work together, so I agree, it's not about the like cold sweat jolt at night like, oh
Yeah.
my god, we should do this, but it's about listening and working together. Always.
The best idea is the boss of the room, right? If you treat it
Mhm.
like an inanimate object, I think that goes a long way. So,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
that's so
I want
true.
you've mentioned cosplay a couple times. I know it's something you're really passionate about. Look, I want to
Mhm.
jump into that
Okay.
because I'll just say from my experience going to live esports events in Boston.
Mhm.
We just we just as a group, a couple of my students, we went to the Rainbow Six
Mhm.
Invitational in
Yeah.
Boston in February, and I got to be honest. That was the coolest live event I've seen yet here in Boston, and a big part of it was those cosplayers, right?
Yeah.
And cosplaying for our six event, right? I was joking. This is the safest place to be in Boston right now, because like
Yeah,
20%
yeah,
of the
because
cosplayers look like they're ready to jump into action. Something
yeah,
goes wrong.
dude.
But they are such an important part. I think if you're looking at the casual versus the loyalist, and someone like me coming in not really having a dog in the fight, we don't have. Unlike traditional sports, it's not like there's a Boston team or a New York
Yeah.
team, right? But I kind of equate a little bit to pro wrestling, where like a casual fan like me will show up and the marks will tell you who to root for, right? Just by the way their actions, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's so true.
and so, but they serve such an important piece to these events.
Yeah.
And so I like what is it about cosplaying that makes you so passionate about this? Um,
Can I just get on my
please,
soapbox for a
please,
second?
please do, please.
Bro, okay. So I have always wanted to be like a big cosplayer. I am like the clumsiest person in the world. I'm not crafty at all. I'm great on a computer, terrible with my hands. So cosplay has always been one of those things that's like I just idolize and I think it's amazing. So when cosplay was put on my plate, I was like the happiest kid in the world. So and it was a learning challenge obviously because being someone who has done some minor cosplays, again like everything I've done is Borderlands wise, but like um I just the passion that comes from that community, you will talk to any cosplayer and I guarantee they are kind, they are passionate, they will tell you how they made that build. They are willing to like talk you through something. And I think it really helps kind of in a way promote um manners, if you will, because I think that with cosplay, at least at DreamHack, and I know a lot of other festivals do this, we are very, very strong on saying like cosplay and drag are not consent. That does not mean you can take pictures of people and touch people and do whatever. And so I think that with cosplay becoming more and more regular at not just anime conventions, but gaming festivals like DreamHack and all these other places, people are starting to really like you're seeing that respect and that like decorum come out. Um, but and then we have our cosplay competition, which I consider like my crown jewel of the weekend. And it's just so fun being backstage with the cosplayers, and some of them are really excited, some of them are nervous. There's a lot of emotions going on. My staff is like fully locked in, and I don't know. I just think cosplay is like all about like first of all celebrating boundaries. I think respecting and celebrating I know a lot of people don't say like celebrating boundaries, but I think it's important to celebrate. Yes, you're being strong. That's awesome. Don't allow that. Celebrating creativity, and also it advocates for inclusivity, but it also is just like it brings the game to life. It's so
Absolutely.
fun. So, yeah, I could go on forever, but that's like my soapbox. I love cosplayers. I love the cosplay competition. I'm the cosplay corner and everything we're able to build at DreamHack for cosplayers. Like I could go on forever. I'm gonna stop for a second, but
Well, let me ask you this: how can we, you know, how can we as fans of these events, as people who want to do right by the community, how can we support this avenue in a more inclusive way?
supporting cosplayers is, I feel like, pretty easy. I mean, I would say that, and I'll always be honest with this. I mean, as someone who supports and runs cosplay competitions, but I'm not a cosplayer myself,
Yeah.
I would say ask a cosplayer. But I think that one of the ways that we can really support this is and I say this with voice chats, I say this with everything, be an advocate. If you see someone doing something that would make you uncomfortable, like, stand up for it. Be like, hey, no, you'd be surprised that, like, someone being weird, the moment that a second person enters that chat, or like a third person enters that chat or that situation, it's done, it's handled. So I think the biggest thing is, like, cosplayers do such beautiful art, and they come out to, like, show us and allow us to, like, enjoy and witness that beauty and creativity. The biggest thing we can do is come back and be like, hey, like, don't, protect each other, look out for each other, support each other, follow them on Instagram, like, so yeah, I don't know, that's my.
No, I think it's. I mean, you're right on. I mean, the will of the crowd is a powerful thing,
Yeah,
right?
don't be a
That's
bystander.
right. Well, it's a tide you're fighting against at that point if you get enough numbers, right? So
Hmm.
so yeah, I think that's excellent. So
Yeah.
I want to get into some other avenues of creativity here as far as people's art.
Hmm.
One of the things that excites me about this industry is what the art of these games can look like in the eyes of different artists, right?
Hmm.
I do think I'm a big believer in collaboration, right, as a multiplier game,
Yeah.
right? And every different iteration of somebody's artwork, like from their own, I think it actually enhances, strengthens the brand,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about Fortnite. Like, you can tell when something has been Fortniteified instantly, right?
Yeah.
Right? Don't you think?
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yes.
no, but I think it's one of the coolest things about this industry. And for DreamHack, I think you see a lot of that with the Artist Alley.
Yeah.
And
My
so
baby.
um yeah. If we can, for the unfamiliar about the Artist Alley, what kind of work goes into that? So,
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we open applications, and we usually get over 400 people that apply. And then we only have anywhere from 30 to 60-ish spots normally to fill. And so it's really tough. It's really tough to be able to go through, and every single person that applies is extremely talented. Like, I don't think I've ever seen an application that I'm like, this person, it's not an artist or it's a fake application. Like, people are super serious, and it's extremely competitive. Um, but we look for a couple of things. Of course, we take into consideration the game titles that we're going to have at the festival. But the biggest thing we look for is, do these artists have game art? Because a lot of times people might confuse us for an anime con, and we don't want to have an artist come out and then not do well because they didn't have the right materials or whatever it is. So um we go through that. We send in the offers. We make sure that they're prepped. They have all the materials, and we, try to market them as much as we can. And, but yeah, I mean, the artists and the indies, I'm going to say this for everything we talk about. They are like my
please do.
babies, like, the cosplayers are my babies. The artist alley is my baby. The indie, the charities are my babies. But, yeah, so the artist alley though is very unique because it's incredibly competitive. And luckily, the people and the artists that we get to work with, regardless if they get a spot or they don't, they are so incredibly sweet. And they also, like, our artists, like I said earlier, give the best feedback. Like, and I'm really glad that we've built an environment where they feel that trust to be able to come and talk to us. You know what I mean? Um, I love our artists. I could sit here with, like, hard eyes and talk about Artist Alley too forever.
Is there a particular piece of art that sticks out from all these alleys?
I mean, okay, first of all,
I
you
feel
can
like I'm
see
putting you
like
on the
all
spot.
of
I
the
apologize, but like, yeah, I mean,
yeah, you can see like all the artwork and stuff for those listening and not watching in the background. I have
yeah.
a ton of different paintings and stuff. And one of my friends actually got this for me. It's like the Jinx thing for my for
Kind of looks
Christmas
like a
this past
tarot
year.
card a little bit, or tarot card.
It
Oh,
is, yeah.
okay,
I'm super into tarot. I think it's really cool. But
sweet.
so um there's a couple pieces of art that really stand out to me. There's one artist that we have um quite often, and her art, her name is Meow It's Mari, Mari, and she makes the most adorable like Kirby with a knife kind of stickers and like socks, and like she can make a booth display like 14 feet. We've had to tell her before, like, okay, we have to take it down because it like
Yeah.
like, so she's always a joy to work with. There's like multiple artists. Rena, oh my gosh, it starts with a K. I'm so sorry. There's like a billion different artists that I just are so incredible to work with, that every time they apply, obviously we try to rotate artists, but sometimes you just have to be like, this is like art for a gaming festival. You know what I mean? So, yeah, there's definitely a couple artists that always stick out in my head that I'm like, these are kind of staples, whenever, they fit in or when it works. But, yeah.
I'm gonna potentially get you really fired up with this next question,
Okay.
but uh, it's something that a lot of artists have a lot of passionate opinions about.
Oh my God. Is it AI?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Okay. Let's get into it. Let's do it.
So
I'm so ready.
yeah, so because I do think there is a seat at the table for AI in the creative process,
Hmm.
where it can help you frame things that you
Hmm.
then say, we've done these experiments in my classroom where
Hmm.
your ideas versus what the AI generates, and every time the human ideas are better. I think the
Yeah.
bar is low for AI, but at least AI can at least get you in the right direction. I
Yeah.
think when you're mocking things up,
Hmm.
having a rough kind of AI generated like image of what the vision is can help
Hmm.
articulate this to people who have a lot of questions, right? I don't know,
Yeah.
but when it comes to this stuff, I think it's a different, it's got to be a different ball game, right? So like,
Absolutely.
yeah, so where does AI belong in the creating journey, and for what you guys do at the Artist Alley with DreamHack? How do you police AI?
First of all, very plainly, AI does not belong in the artist alley. But there are elements in the creative process that it can be. So I think that like AI is a really powerful tool. I think that like it has to be used ethically. I think that we have a responsibility to artists and to those who make art and are creatives to protect their art and to always advocate for like human made art and things. That being said, I think that if it's, hey, we need to really quickly mock up a 3D design for this booth or whatever, and we need like AI along the way, but it isn't the final product. Like if it's a brainstorming tool, I think that's okay. But I think at the end of the day, we have to advocate for human made things. And so like I've always been really loud about that. And I'm very like very clear with my with everybody that like AI does not belong in the artist alley for DreamHack. Um I try to advocate that throughout the full festival. Of course, like that's, I don't own everything or that kind of stuff, but the whole team is really behind that too. Like it's a good brainstorming tool. It's great to kind of get you along the way and like show you visuals, but at the end like we need like handmade things by people, and like properly paid commission people, and I do think DreamHack is really good at protecting that and staying strong to that personally, at least from what we do.
Yeah. How let's assume that today, right now, as we're talking this is the worst that AI is going to be going forward, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
How difficult is it to police this stuff? Considering that,
It can be tricky because AI is getting pretty good, but
right?
there's like some key things that you look at when you're looking at like different applications. A lot of it has to do with line work, a lot of it has to do with like hands, eyes, hair. Um And then sometimes it's hard, but luckily, like, I have a team and we work together, and on the team we have artists who like they make art. Again, I'm terrible with my hands. I can make graphics all day, but that's about it. And they also help me. So it's not just me looking at it, it's multiple people looking at this. And so it can be tricky. And the one thing I do want to say though is AI. Like, I know switching to talking about indies for a
Yeah,
second.
yeah.
AI can be extremely powerful and wonderful for the indies, right? So like Unity uses AI. Unity is I think partially or fully powered on AI, and it's like an
Mm.
AI assisted workflow. And I think EUFN and a couple other programs that like indies and developers use often, it is powered by AI, and it's a phenomenal tool. But again, they're still creating that work and putting in things, and it's not, it's still made by their hand. So, yeah. So anyway, I think that there's different times and places in different creative processes, but I still think that it should never be the end product.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into the indies. Is this
Let's
something
do it.
I asked you this question about a week ago. I said, are indies taking over the world? And you were emphatically yes, yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what is because you are seeing some wins here. I think the first one I go to last year is Pal World, right? Great
Yeah.
indie success, right?
Yeah.
What where do they, how important is this to like our I guess sorry, I'm stumbling over my question here.
No, you're okay.
This is the rare stumble here. You're seeing me in rare form here. So
This is where Sean can put in another note like LOL.
but how do they feed the ecosystem? And you alluded to this a second ago. We test out a lot of Unreal Engine Fortnite content here from studios.
Yeah.
What role, like, is that the answer to maintaining a steady ecosystem is right giving the creators a stake in it and seeing what they put on it, as we talked about with Artist Alley and co-opting. Is that another form of it? Like, let's just start with indies and how they feed the ecosystem.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. So one, indies are everything. I think that indies, and I'm so biased, I will say that out loud. Of course, I'm the person who makes the indie playground, but I'm serious. I think that indies are really coming into a golden era, a golden age. And I think that, like, when you think about Power World, that's a great example. Think about Repo. Headliners is another big one that a lot of people are doing multiplayer. Lockdown Protocol, right? Like these big multiplayer games that are just like goofy, dumb fun are starting to become viral and huge and big. I mean, think about Among Us, right? Among Us was this little baby that blew up and is like just an amazing example of how indies can like pop up and take over the ecosystem.
We've got a lot of fans here of Cuphead. That's a
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
like
Cuphead, yeah. So
game that when you think about it, it's so silly it shouldn't work, but it's brilliant when you
yes,
play it, right?
exactly. It's stupid stuff, right? It's stupid stuff. Like Repo, you're like these little bot, like trash can bot things that run away around. But I'm obsessed with it. I play it every single night with my friends. And it's like, and you mentioned creators, and I do think creators have a lot to do with this, like a huge tie-in with the success of indies. I think 10 years ago, streaming and content creation, it was a thing, but it wasn't as common as it is now. And so now you see people really like playing games and trying to like really push unique content. And all of a sudden you have all of these indies popping up, and it's the perfect opportunity for creators to make unique, fun content and be ahead of the trend. And so I think that indies are freaking ruling the world and will continue to get bigger and better. But it does have a really strong correlation with content creation for sure.
Yeah. Do you think sentiment with the mainstream has any impact on this? Because I look at something like Concord last year, and what a failure that was for PlayStation to abandon it less than a month in after
Yeah,
putting
those are
how much work into it. Like does that play a factor at all? Like I'm sick of these. I always make the point of like, uh, you know, what makes Fortnite so great is anyone can play on anywhere. It's free
Yeah.
to download,
And all the custom modes and random stuff you can do.
yeah, and so it's able to molt and continue to innovate because there's no incentive for us to keep playing since it's free, right? So they have to hold themselves accountable. Whereas, cough cough Activision, like one of these where right, you know, there's a segment of that audience that just is going to hand over their $70 every year. And so where's the incentive to continue to innovate? Same with EA Sports and the Madden product. And I hope that the Madden products have gotten stale, and there's this fresh new college football game that came out, and it was most huge. But like you're hearing people in the lab saying, like, is the next iteration of this going to stink? Because
exactly. Well, think about Animal Crossing, right? They released that right as COVID happened, and it blew up. But there's no way in game to make purchases, so Nintendo stopped really giving updates and giving support to it for a really long time. And it's, so I do think that people get frustrated. And I don't want to say with like big titles, but they get frustrated with, games that are exclusive to different consoles or games that you have to pay a lot of money for that just get ditched. And so when you think about these little indies, you kind of know what you're going in for. You're supporting a small indie. There might be some bugs, there might be whatever, but it's going to be a fun freaking time for $5. You know what I mean? And yeah, so
sometimes it's I'm sounding like a TED talker today. Sometimes it's the imperfections that are the perfection.
Right? Yes, right? Absolutely. When I'm gaming with my friends and someone glitches and they're stuck in a wall, that is the funniest thing to me. And I will be back on that game tomorrow to try to like mess with them and try to make it happen again. Like there's some glitches that are good. Obviously there's glitches that are bad, but like, I totally agree. I think that things don't have to be perfect for the gaming ecosystem to love it. But I do think when there's these games that are $80 or more, people are going to expect perfection and be really pissed and be turned off very quickly if it's not perfect.
But however, I mean, how much money have the two of us to combine you think spent on in-game purchase for Fortnite? Let's just say, like,
oh my god, I know how much I've spent on Valorant.
It's embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing. But okay, God. Valorant's free, right? Like all these games that are free, they're making their money back manifold, right?
Yeah, they sure did, especially on me, dude. I had to uninstall that for a little bit just because I wanted pretty skins in the game. I told my husband how much I spent on that game. He was like, "Babe, that could have been the rest of your car payment." And I was like, "You're so right." I mean, this is over like, multiple years of it being there, but still,
every now and then. What did you purchase? Like, dude, there was a cool.
I needed the new Glitchbulb skin.
I just said, I said, I'll ask questions later. There was a Snoop Dogg skin in Fortnite. I gotta get it. Drop it like a thought, man.
I wanted the Zed skin so it would sing to me, babe. Please, you have to understand. I want my friends to think I'm cool. I'm freaking 29. I'm over here like, please, I want my friends. Please. I would do it again though. No regrets.
No regrets.
Yeah. Not a single regret.
Not a single regret. All right. I think it's time to get into some lightning round here.
Oh, okay. Let's do it.
So I call this lightning round, but what ends up happening is the guests always go off on huge tangents because they're great questions. So
I love a tangent.
I start calling it thunder round instead of a lightning strike. It's like a rolling thunder. So
okay, yeah.
So first thunder round question: what is the worst advice you ever got in your career?
To be less, to be quiet. Like to sit, to fit into a box or sit down or like wait for the right time. I was about to cuss. Screw that. That is so not true. I think that's the worst advice I've ever gotten. And if I would have in that particular moment, in that case, not spoken up and not fought for what I thought was going to be better, then there would have been not just for this wasn't at DreamHack, but for a different show, we would have lost a ton of tickets and a ton of attendance, and the students and the people we were working with would have been furious. And so when they were like, just wait for it, it'll be fine, we'll fix it, that was the worst advice I've ever gotten. And I think that's really important specifically for women to hear, or anyone that's femme-identifying. You don't need to be more quiet. You don't need to sit down. You don't need to fit in a box. You need to speak your mind, believe in yourself, lean on the other women around you, and trust in your instincts. If your gut is telling you, okay, be quiet, sit down, listen to yourself. But if someone else is telling you like, we need to back off or blah, 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 I don't know. I don't believe in that. I think you should fight for what you're passionate in.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Next segment for bed. What's an unpopular opinion that you stand on? It doesn't have to be gaming either.
Well, gaming wise, I do have one. I think that I understand. Oh my God. This is going to be so bad because I literally work at DreamHack. I understand the hype around esports. Do not get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I think that cozy games are slept on. I think they are. I think that people who only focus on esports in collegiate programs, at festivals, at whatever it is doing it so wrong. I think there's so many games out there. Like, you think about Minecraft and the way that you can educate and teach people. Like, we had a freaking girls camp where I taught people about inertia and gravity, and we made roller coasters in Minecraft. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that my most unpopular opinion is not everything needs to be an esport. Like, it can just be for fun. It can just be a goofy haha thing. And it doesn't not everything has to be gamified. But even though that's my personal thing.
Sure.
At work, I try to gamify everything, of course. But I personally think that it's okay for us to just like not make everything a competition. I don't know if that's a bad one or
no.
Like, you know,
that's. I mean, listen, you're speaking to my 8-year-old daughter's heartstrings when you talk about Minecraft. So, yeah, and I don't know. I'm a little nervous because the early returns reviews I've seen on the new Minecraft movie are like meh. So,
oh God, here's an unpopular opinion, or probably a popular one. The only good gaming movie there ever was the Mario one.
That one was amazing. That one was awesome.
It was so good.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
Again, I live and breathe Borderlands, dude. I live and breathe Borderlands. Never saw the movie. I will not.
Well, here's I'll throw in a question here, because Last of Us new season comes out in a few weeks, right? And that I think similar to when X-Men first came out in the 90s, and then it just unleashed a wave of like comic book movies ready for the big screen.
Yep.
Now that Last of Us has shown a proof of concept, you're going to see a lot more of these, action adventure game stories try from life. Right? Fallout was another example, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, is there a game out there that you'd like to see get brought to the big screen?
I wish they did Borderlands well. I wish they did Borderlands so much better. I haven't even seen the movie, but like, is there a game that I wish that they brought to the big screen? Oh my gosh. What is it called? It's from Telltale Games, and it's something about like the wolf, and it has to do with all like the old like Disney stories. Hold on. It's would be so good as an actual movie.
And also counterpoint, my daughters love the Sonic the Hedgehog movies with Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik.
My nephews love that
and
too.
Idris Elba as Knuckles. Oh yeah, they love those.
It's fine. That's what I'll say. It's called, okay. Telltale Games. It's already a story in itself. So I know this kind of cop out, but The Wolf Among Us. If you haven't played that,
all right, I'm gonna write that one down. Actually,
it's
Wolf Among Us.
So good. And when they announced that they were making a second one, I was like screaming in my freaking room when I was watching that live. I was like, yeah. And I found it because Telltale also did a Borderlands thing. So, Borderlands, honestly, career advice, just get obsessed with Borderlands. It'll lead you wherever you need to go.
Well, you'll at least have Lyndsay as a friend, right? So
yeah, there you go.
What's a prediction you have about the future of this industry?
I think that we're gonna see kind of two evolutions. I think that we're gonna continue to see esports hype get bigger and bigger and bigger. But I think alongside of that equally, we're gonna start seeing like the festival side and the entertainment scene of this grow exponentially. Like you think about Baby No Money, right? That's just an artist that like came to TwitchCon and is hilarious and really in the gaming scene and stuff and into cosplay and stuff. And we're starting to see this giant boom of like, instead of, when I was growing up, which that makes me sound so freaking old, when I was in college and high school, well, not college, but a lot of times people thought gaming was really nerdy and bad and weird. And like, if you were into gaming, like that's such a loser thing to do, And uh, so I think that we're seeing people really accept that like gaming is really freaking cool. And so I think we're going to start seeing a lot of more community events and a lot more cosplay and a lot more evolution around specifically gaming. So yeah, I think we're going to see kind of esports continue to grow. If you want more of a hot take, I think that mobile esports specifically are going to really take off.
Yes, that is something I think a lot of people are bullish on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think, but then I also see people that are like, no, not mobile. We're not going to do mobile. And it's
why
like,
not
dude,
move? It's
that's the
more
most
it's more
accessible
frictionless.
platform.
You don't
Yeah.
need a freaking PC.
Yeah,
I mean, I
also,
love what we've got here at Endicott.
yeah, yeah. But also, did you know that mobile gamers is like the most equal when it comes to genders of like who plays and how many people play?
I believe it. I
Yeah.
believe it.
So because it's so accessible, the point of entry is so low that a lot of people have phones and a lot of people can do that. And I think people are really sleeping on mobile games, but I think it's starting to catch wind a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll see a lot more mobile tournaments really like blow up, which I think is really freaking cool. I love mobile gaming.
100%. This last question I had was more agnostic of what advice you have for students looking to break into. I want to touch on the female and fem-identifying side of this with you for the last couple of minutes. You mentioned a second ago about this stigma of it's for nerds, it's for dorks. I mean, it still is. But listen, like we're all dorks in our own way. We're all nerds in our own way. Even but then. And your husband Chris Postell, Esports founder, has done a lot of excellent work with that polling data and finding that I forget if this was his or someone else's, but like it's
he leads that.
The stat I forget if it was from him or someone else I got this from, but like it's a stat I use all the time with students. Is like 90% of you are gamers. Whether you out loud or quietly, you're gaming.
Yeah.
And there's lots of anecdotes here. Just here in the lab, I still go back to over winter break. One day, I opened the lab and the entire women's basketball team here showed up. They were pissed off because matchmaking for Fortnite was not working in their dorms.
That's freaking hilarious. I almost cussed you. I'm so sorry.
And I told you about our women's Fortnite team. They're a very important piece of how we continue to move forward here.
Yeah.
At Endicott. And so I think it's similar to I'm a huge NFL fan, and the amount of purchase the amount of merch purchases made by female NFL fans, it outnumbers the male fans.
I believe that.
Yeah, and so they serve a very important purpose to this whole thing too. So I guess like what advice you have for female fem-identifying students who want to pursue a career in esports. I don't know how to lean in.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, going off of that anecdote, so yes, Mr. Chris Postell does the trends report every single year, and instead of like focusing on Christmas time and wrapping presents, he's over there like crunching numbers and data, and I'm like helping.
When does that guy sleep, by the way? Because every time I talk to him, he's working on like 9 projects.
He sleeps in little like bursts.
Is he like a vampire bat, like sleeping upside down?
Yeah, exactly. We'll be sitting there like working, and he'll have like 30 minutes in between a meeting, and I look over and he's just like dead to the world. I'm serious. This guy one time fell asleep leaning against a slots machine in Vegas. Like
God.
I know. He's also fallen asleep at
You know, they probably call the police if they see you doing that at
Dude,
a slot machine, right?
He fell asleep at one of our parties at DreamHack, and one of a security guard was like, "This guy is like, what is happening?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry. This is my husband. He just kind of turns off sometimes. He'll be back on in like 10
I
minutes."
thought he was having an out of body experience.
Literally, I was like, "Please, I'm so sorry." And I told him, I was like, "You're not allowed going to any of the parties anymore."
Oh man.
But anyway, so we don't have Christmas time. We have Trent's reports time in this household. But the main question of how women and femme identifying students kind of get into the space or break into the industry, you know, there's the simple answers of like, go get involved, volunteer, you know, join online communities, start building something, that kind of stuff, whether it's, you know, a tournament, maybe make a content series if you're a content creator, join or start a club. But I really think that one of the best ways to break in is to network. So that is, again, kind of show up and try to create, you know, whether it's connections or content or, but I think for women, one of the things that I will say in this industry, and this is, don't worry, this is not knocking any guys or anything like that, but the most experience and like the doors that have been opened for me are from other women in the industry. And that's from making connections, being genuine, being myself, being passionate, not shutting up when people told me to shut up, you know, standing up for what I believe in. But at a core level, at like a just basic do this, work on your hard skills, work on how to market things, work on how to create things, work on learning how to do productions, work on, you know, finance skills, those hard skills, anything you could think of that's out in the job market that doesn't touch gaming is inside gaming. We need finance people. We need, you know, HR. We need graphics. We need anything for these kind of festivals. We need someone who's just literally like just going to be there and help, you know, go through applications or things like that. So work on your hard skills, network, and try to get involved or volunteer wherever you can. Those are like my big pillars. And lean on other women and femme identifying people. They will help you through. They will carry you through this. So yeah.
Well said. Well said. Well, how can people follow you, keep up with your work? Where can they find you? What's the best way for female students, or anybody?
Yeah. So my username that I made on my Xbox when I was 13 and kept it because I didn't change it before I worked in gaming, so it's too late to change my brand now, is Mrs. Lucifer, and Mrs. is spelled out MISSES. So it's that's the same thing on Twitter, you know, TikTok, Facebook, Twitch, on Instagram it's Mrs. Lucifer, but whatever. So you can reach out to me through there. You can DM me on that. That's also my username for Discord. So if you ever need to reach out, I'm especially available to help and support students. I started in collegiate, you know, in collegiate events and local collegiate events. So whatever I can do to help fellow students, please never be afraid to reach out. And I mean that seriously. So that's how you can reach me. And call me, beat me, you know, if you need to reach me. Yeah.
Sweet. It's amazing. Lyndsay, this is one of the best conversations I've had since, and I feel like I say it every episode, but this is
that's so sweet.
The ante just keeps getting up. I don't know what happens here, but this has been phenomenal. I really appreciate your time. I'm bad at ending these things because I I feel like I could talk 6 more hours with you, but like I'll try to
honestly
wrap this up. But I want to thank everyone for continuing to tune in. Make sure you follow us on Spotify and YouTube. It's just at Endicott Esports, and Spotify, look us up, Gullcast, Endicott Esports. You can catch up on all of our episodes. We've had amazing people from EA Sports. We've had Gen G. We've had Team Secret. Now we have DreamHack. There's a lot of great expertise, a lot of great insights from all these episodes. You can search them all. But for now, for Lyndsay Postell, this is Brennan Hall saying thanks for tuning. See you next time.
Yeah, and thank you, Sean. You're the best editor ever.
Sean is doing the Lord's work, folks.
Everyone comment down below and say thank you, Sean.
Sean for Sean 2028, even if he's not eligible to run.
Yeah,
Sean
let's
2028,
go.
let's go. Let's
All
go.
right.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Be sure to follow us at Endicott Esports. See you next time.